Salutations, my Sigma friends. This is Alex from Sigma Spirit, the best channel in the entire world for a Sigma male to understand his deep, enduring, powerful Sigma spirit. Today we're going to talk a little bit about books. And this isn't going to be a deep dive into a book. It's just going to be a little list of books that I've enjoyed over the years. And they've given me some sort of insight about what it means to be an introvert, what it means to be a Sigma male, what it means to be empathic, and what it means to be on a path of progress, development, suffering, and really to understand myself. So this video is going to be part one of a multi-part series because books are so powerful. Over epochs of time, men have sought knowledge from books, ancient wisdom, ancient whispers from civilizations beyond. So I'm going to get into the books right now with a little help from my attention-destroying smartphone. So we can look at the books right now and understand ourselves, have better tools to navigate the world as a Sigma male. And I'm going to share with you a quote, a lesson, a takeaway here and there. Let's begin. The first book, Fountainhead by Ayn Rand. Now, this is a very controversial book, and it's a book that sparks a lot of debate about what the author intended to do. And I think that if anyone is triggered by this book, or if anyone thinks of this book and they immediately think of a political stance, one party versus the other, they've completely lost the true meaning of this book. To me, this book is about a man understanding the value of himself and understanding the value of selfishness for the greater good. And that might seem counterintuitive, but many times in today's culture, we have people who are doing things because they're so worried about other people's opinions. And I find that the main character in this book, Howard Rourke, he's an incredible example of someone who uses selfishness to create something amazing. And while I don't always recommend being selfish, I do think that this book gives you such an incredible model of what it means to be an introvert. I believe he's a true Sigma male. He's a true introvert. Although he lacks a little bit of the sensitive and the intuitive side, he has this incredible power within him. He's a powerful force, and he has unbending integrity and unbending morals and unbending principles and values in what he does, what he creates. And I just absolutely love this book. It's about 1,000 pages long, and I've read it twice. And the second time I read it, it just gave me such insight, a new insight, because it's so crammed with information. And when you read a book that long, it's not like a 5-minute YouTube video. You are surrounded by this character. It's like being raised by someone. You spend so much time with this character that you find yourself changing as you read it. And I think that it's a very valuable book for Sigma males to read so that they can understand why it's sometimes good to be selfish, what it can mean to be an introverted creator, what it means to be really self-reliant, to be able to be independent on your own and create something, no matter what people do or say or how much they try to destroy you. The second book I want to talk about is an Ian Fleming book. It's one of the James Bond books, but it's unique. It's very unique because it's the only James Bond book, to my knowledge, that is done from the perspective of a woman. So James Bond is not the main character. He's just a side character. I won't get too much into the plot, but he just makes a brief appearance at the end. And while most of the book is just a sort of mundane read, there's an amazing end to the book where James Bond shows up And the way she describes James Bond was described to me by someone else. And it's the whole reason why I read this book. Someone recommended it. They said, well, the last few parts of the book, when James Bond shows up, it's really powerful. This was on I think it was on Quora or something. And I just followed that advice. I read the book based on the sentence they had described. I'm glad I did, because the way she describes him and the way we get to see James Bond represented as this mysterious, charming, introverted, capable person, it changed something in me when I read it. So I'm going to read a little short clip from the book where she describes James Bond. And I want you to think about how women view you right now in your life. And think about the power by which they view you. How magnetized are they to you? And think about what she says here. So this is after they have done the deed, and after a sort of traumatic event they had to endure together. There were some bad guys. I don't want to ruin it for you, but there were some bad guys, and James Bond came in and fixed the situation. And they're lying in bed together, and she looks at him while he's sleeping and says to herself, I would stay away from him and leave him to go his own road, where there would be other women, countless other women, who would probably give him as much physical pleasure as he had had with me. I wouldn't care, or at least I told myself that I wouldn't care, because none of them would ever own him. Own any larger piece of him than I now did. And for all my life, I would be grateful for him. For everything. And I would remember him forever as my image of a man. And then she goes on to describe more about him in very vivid detail. And then she finishes with, yes, this was a man to love. So these words in this book, The Spy Who Loved Me, they resonated with me. The way she says, I will forever remember him as my image of a man. And as we fight these battles right now in the world about masculinity, I feel like Sigma males represent the new model of masculinity. And we can be people that people remember. We can be men that people remember forever as a model of what it means to be a true, positive, helpful, influential version of masculinity. The next book is by Hermann Hesse. It is called Siddhartha. And this is a very famous book about spirituality and the quest a young man takes on his journey toward enlightenment. It's very Eastern. It's very rich in the philosophies of the East. And it's a very powerful book about suffering and a man's journey, the spiritual path, and ultimately growth towards becoming a complete person. And I remember there was this one scene that reminded me of what it means to be an introvert, what it means to be self-reliant, what it means to be sort of stripped of the comforts. Because I think as a Sigma male, we often are drawn towards things that let us suffer. They let us suffer, and that ultimately pushes us towards spiritual growth, emotional growth. And Siddhartha is really about suffering. It's about the paths to enlightenment, and a lot of them have a lot of suffering on them. I thought about the simplicity of being a Sigma male. Sigma males like simplicity. They like minimalism. They like to be lean. They like to live a lean life. And Siddhartha really represents what living a lean life could be like. And there's a conversation in the book that really represents his mindset, and I thought it was just beautiful. So here it is. So there is a merchant or something, and the merchant is asking him, basically, all these other people are giving, what are you going to give? And he says basically that he doesn't have possessions, and the merchant says, if you are without possessions, what can you give? Everyone gives what he has. The soldier gives strength, the merchant goods, the teacher instructions, the farmer rice, the fisherman fish. Very well. And what can you give? What have you learned that you can give? And Siddhartha says, I can think, I can wait, I can fast. And the guy says, is that all? And Siddhartha replies, I think that is all. So he thinks that is everything. And I think in this world right now, people are trying to overload us with crap, basically. They want to complicate our lives. They want your life to be complicated. And I think part of being a Sigma male is removing yourself from this overload and looking at your life through a very simple lens, trying to make it as lean as possible, try to make your life as simple and minimal as possible. Every Sigma male I know lives this way. They want a simple life, whatever that means. Some people forego having children for a while because they want to keep things simple. Others live a very nomadic life. And I think this book represents how to exist spiritually as a nomad with nothing. So Siddhartha says, I can think, I can wait, I can fast. He can live with nothing. Nothing is everything. The fourth book I want to talk about is by Harry Brown, and it's called How I Found Freedom in an Unfree World. And I've been meaning to read this book for a long time, but recently I downloaded it on Audible. I ponied up and I spent the money on the book because it's a very volatile time. We're heading down a path of restricted freedoms, and I'm going a little crazy right now during this time. So I wanted to read this book by a libertarian about how to find freedom in an unfree world. It's not very political, but it's a very interesting tale of how this person found freedom for himself. And I promise I'm going to make a longer video about this book because I think it's so important for Sigma males. Why is it important for us? Because as Sigma males, we might be split down the center. Part of us knows we want to be self-reliant, we want to be independent. But another part of us might be sensitive, empathetic, and feel this calling to help people. Maybe we don't like the system. We broke from the system, we broke from the social structure, and now we want to go back and pull people out. We want to help people come out of it. And that can be very conflicting for people. And this book addresses that and says basically, if you want freedom, you're going to have to find freedom for yourself. If you want freedom for others, you're going to have to find freedom for yourself. Liberating yourself first is the key to helping others and changing the world. The next book is called Quiet by Susan Cain. This book was brought to my attention by my friend, and he described it basically as this. He said, a long time ago, men and women were judged on their character traits, these deep principles and values and things that they embodied. And it's only recently that we've developed something called personality. And I think that just blew my mind right now, because my friend went on to tell me about the book and how it talks about how personality is basically an invention that we've created in the last century or so. And we've only created this personality because we want to fit in and we want people to like us. So a long time ago, we were judged on character traits and we were liked because of those character traits. But nowadays we have personality, and personality has replaced character traits. And I will tell you that that is wrong. And we are finding that that is wrong right now in society, and it's one of the problems we're facing. If you look around, you'll notice this. It's very easy to look at the most successful, famous people right now and understand that they have almost a lack of character traits, anything remotely admirable, but they have great personalities in quotations. And I think this has a lot to do with quiet versus loud. And that's why the book is called Quiet, because introverts represent such a strong segment of society, such a numbered segment. And yet we're quiet, we're not loud, we're not boasting our personality. And a lot of us have this incredible set of character traits, and they've just been ignored. And we might think that we need to be loud, but we don't. We can remain quiet, but we need to remember how to understand ourselves, how to be quiet, how to be men of character, how to have traits that are deep within us that other people respect. They're not flashy, they're not cool, They're under the surface. They're subtle. And I think that's really important to remember. And this is also a book really great just because of its insight into being an introvert. One of my favorite quotes from this book just stuck out to me. Don't think of introversion as something to be cured. And when you think about that, a lot of people right now, they think introversion, their own personal introversion, is something that's wrong. They're walking around like, yeah, there's healthy people, and then there's me. I'm an introvert. But it's not true. You just haven't found the ability to turn it into a gift. The other quote I love is this. The highly sensitive, brackets, introverted, end brackets, tend to be philosophical or spiritual in their orientation, rather than materialistic or hedonistic. They dislike small talk. They often describe themselves as creative or intuitive. They dream vividly and often recall their dreams the next day. They love music, nature, art, physical beauty. They feel exceptionally strong emotions, sometimes acute bouts of joy, but also sorrow, melancholy, and fear. Highly sensitive people also process information about their environments, both physical and emotional, unusually deep. They tend to notice subtleties that others miss. Another person's shift in mood, or a light bulb burning a touch too brightly. When I read that, and I know when you hear that, many of you are going to think, wow, that is just me. That is me. That is so me. And I think that this book is just full of things that are going to help you see, that's me, that's me, that's me. And it's going to help you understand. That concludes the very first Sigma Spirit reading list. I hope that these have helped you understand yourself a little bit more. I hope you liked the quotes I gave you. These are very powerful books full of insight that might help you understand who you are. Let me know in a comment what your favorite quote is that you think represents what a Sigma male is. I'm very curious to know what you think. I would love to see a comment section full of quotes. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next installment of the Sigma Spirit reading list. For now, take care, live long and prosper, Sigmas.